Hello all and welcome to this AWS tutorial. Today we will discuss about AWS S3 transfer acceleration. Before we go further ahead with the tutorial, a couple of things to keep in mind. First is that transfer acceleration as a service is not free. So in case you happen to do this tutorial on your own, you will incur charges. Second thing is, in this tutorial, I will be using C#.NET source code, or basically C#.NET as a scripting language. So I have uploaded the source code for this particular tutorial that I'm using at this particular GitHub location. So feel free to go to this particular GitHub location, download the source code, and explore it further, or even use it for your learning purposes. Let us now review the steps that we will follow for this particular tutorial. The first thing that we will do is we will enable transfer acceleration for an existing S3 bucket. So I have already created an S3 bucket for this tutorial and uploaded a few files in it. And we will go ahead and enable transfer acceleration for the bucket that I have created. The next thing that we will do is we will use the transfer acceleration endpoint to view public files present in our bucket. The next thing after that is using C#.NET source code, we will upload a file using transfer acceleration endpoint. After we have uploaded a file, we will download a file from our bucket, again using the transfer acceleration endpoint. And finally, we will suspend transfer acceleration for our bucket using the source code. That is, via the source code, we will suspend transfer acceleration. Now, one thing I want to point out over here is we will enable the transfer acceleration for our S3 bucket using the console, but we will suspend it using the C#.NET source code. Now, you can certainly go ahead and enable transfer acceleration as well from your source code. And I have actually I already have the code mentioned or available to you in the source code that I have uploaded on GitHub. So feel free to download the source code from GitHub and explore it. And you will see that there is a function inside which enables transfer acceleration. Okay. Okay, so let me now move to my AWS console. So this is my AWS console right here. And as you see, this is Amazon S3. And I have created a bucket over here called as S3 Transfer Acceleration Bucket. So let us click on this bucket and review its contents. So as you see, I have two files over here. I have a picture of Golden Temple and I have a picture of Toronto's skyline. Okay, so this is some pre-prep that I had already done. So let us now follow the steps that we had reviewed earlier. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to enable transfer acceleration for our S3 bucket, again, using the console. So let me switch back to the console. And if you click on properties right here, and then if you scroll further down under advanced settings, you will see an option or a setting called as transfer acceleration. So let us go ahead and click on this. So this is the transfer acceleration setting. And as you see, there are two options over here. The first option is to enable it, and the second option over here is to suspend it. So this is interesting, and this is something that you want to keep in mind, because if you're preparing for your certification, they may ask you as to how you can disable transfer acceleration. And actually, there is no way for you to disable that. Okay, you can either enable it or suspend it. So in this case, we will go ahead and enable transfer acceleration for our bucket. So once our transfer acceleration is enabled, this is the endpoint that we can use to basically, communicate or even get or put any objects in our bucket. Okay, so let us copy this endpoint. So I'm going to copy it and I'm going to have it pasted right here. Okay, so this is my transfer acceleration endpoint, as you see. So it is the bucket name, and then finally S3 accelerate, and then the domain amazonaws.com. Okay, so this is typically, this is standard. If you are doing this by yourself, if you're doing this tutorial by yourself, you will see that your bucket name is right here, and everything after your bucket is typically constant. Okay, now as you see, using this accelerated endpoint for faster data transfer will incur additional fee or charges. So keep that in mind, guys. I mean, this is very important. uh, I don't want anybody to be, caught with some unwanted or surprise charges. Now, the link over here, want to compare your data transfer speed by zone or by region, essentially. So if you click on this link, you will see that it actually does a comparison of, direct S3 upload speed versus S3 accelerated transfer upload speed. And currently, this is the region nearest to me, which is Virginia. So this is my primary region, and that's the region I've also selected to create my bucket as well. Now, as you see, this is the direct upload speed, and now it is testing the transfer acceleration upload speed as well. And not only for this region, if you scroll further down, you will see that eventually it will perform a comparison of speeds for all the regions around the world. So as you see, there are all the regions around the world right here. Now, having all of these comparisons come up takes a while. So as you see now, it's doing for San Francisco and it's completed Virginia. So what I have done is, wow, this is 37% slower. Awesome. So in this case, definitely transfer acceleration can certainly help me, because my direct S3 upload speed is almost 37% slower. Okay, so all of these regions, the comparisons, for it to come up is going to take a while, guys. Okay, so I have actually opened up this page ahead of time just so that we can review through and I can show this to you. So at that time, it was 2% faster, as you see. Okay, in San Francisco, there was not much of difference. As you see, is 0% faster. Here in Dublin, it is slower, as you see. And for Seoul, it is 10% faster. And if you scroll further down, you will see the rest of the uh, other regions around the globe. Okay. Now, another thing that I would want to kind of bring to your attention is this particular paragraph right here. So as it says, basically this particular speed checker uses or basically performs multi-part uploads to transfer a file from your browser to various Amazon S3 regions. And that is both with your direct upload speed and your transfer accelerate speed. And then essentially what it does, it compares those speed results and shows you the percentage difference between both of them for a specific region. So for every region over here, it is going to show us, as you see, the difference between the direct upload speed and the transfer accelerate upload speed. Again, the next thing over here is this little note out over here. So generally, as I was saying earlier, mentioning to you earlier as well, the further you are away from the Amazon S3 region, the higher is the speed improvement using the S3 transfer acceleration. So let's say somewhere like Virginia, it is not, it's just 2% faster. As you see earlier, it was 2% faster. But if I am moving somewhere further away, let's say right here, where probably, as you see, yeah, that's Singapore. Singapore is 12% faster. Or Paulo is around 17% faster compared to the direct S3 upload speed. Okay, and rest of the others are not that bad. So the further you are away, the more you will see the benefit of using Amazon S3 transfer acceleration. Okay, now let us go back and see. Okay, so now this is, oh, it became 2% slower. Okay, so this will keep on varying, guys, but essentially, I hope you got the point that the idea is to basically compare the speed between direct upload and the speed between transfer acceleration or transfer accelerated uploads for S3. Okay. And if I remember correctly, generally they will only charge you if the speed is better than your S3. If it's not, they typically don't charge you. But again, don't take any chances. If you are going to enable transfer acceleration for your bucket, there's a very high chance that you will incur charges because they keep on monitoring these speeds on regular basis. Okay, so now it suddenly has become 37%. Okay, so let us switch back to our console and let us go ahead and enable transfer acceleration for our bucket. So let us go ahead and click on save. Okay, so as you see, our transfer acceleration has been enabled. Now we will use the endpoint that we had copied earlier to basically view some public objects that are present in our bucket. So I'm going to go ahead and select Toronto right here and click on actions and then make this particular picture public. Okay, so click on make it public. And now Toronto is public. Now, if you click on Toronto and click on the regular direct S3 link right here, click on this link and you will be able to see the pretty skyline of Toronto right there. As you see, you can see the skyline. Now, this particular picture we are currently viewing using the direct S3 link. As you see, it's right there on the top. Okay. But instead of S3, if we want to use the transfer acceleration endpoint, which we had copied, then we can certainly do that as well. So let us copy this. And instead of using the direct S3 link, I'm going to basically use a transfer acceleration endpoint and hit enter. So as you see, now we are seeing the same Toronto skyline or Toronto.jpg as you see using the transfer acceleration endpoint. So I hope that this gives you an idea that once you've enabled transfer acceleration endpoint, you can basically use that acceleration endpoint to view files which are especially public, okay, directly from the browser. Okay, so now let us go back and review the steps. So we've completed step second, and we've completed step first and second right here. Now let us move to a step 3, wherein we will be using the C#.NET source code to basically upload a file, download a file, and finally suspend transfer acceleration as a service for our bucket. So let me move to my Visual Studio right here. Okay, so this is the source code as you see. This source code has been uploaded on GitHub. Feel free to go and explore the GitHub URL, download the source code on your own and just at least reviews of the source code, there's no harm in reading it. So as you see, I have the solution right here and I have this console application and I have two files. One is the app config, which is open right here. And the other one is program.cs, which is right here, as you see. Okay, so let us first review the app config. Okay, so this is the app config. And as you see, I have actually created a separate profile for this college tutorial. You can pretty much use your own profile, but I just created a separate profile. And this particular bucket is definitely in US East. So obviously Northern Virginia. So you can see the region has been set right here. And the .NET framework is 4.5.2. Okay, so now let us move to program CS and review through our program CS. So as you see, right on the top, we have the using command. So these are all the libraries that we are using. So it's definitely system. And then we have a bunch of Amazon and Amazon S3 libraries that we are referencing for this particular project. Under the namespace transfer acceleration, I have a class called as transfer acceleration test. And in this class, I have created basically a string constant called as bucket name. And this is a bucket name right here. In the region, I've created a bucket region as well, which is definitely US East because my bucket is in Northern Virginia. And I've created a variable of type Amazon S3 called as S3 client. Now let us jump in to the main. So as you see, as I mentioned earlier in the main, I do have the source code for enabling acceleration. Now there's a function right at the bottom over here. As you see, there's a source code as well. So feel free to download this and explore this on your own. But for this particular tutorial, we just enabled it from the console because I wanted to show you that you can use the endpoint essentially to basically review files directly from your browser. Okay, now the first thing that we will do is we will basically create an Amazon S3 client. And this is the key part over here, guys. So as you see, we are setting up the region. The region for our bucket is US East 1. And then we have mentioned over here, as you see, use accelerate endpoint equals to true. So what we are telling essentially to the client is to use the acceleration endpoint for our bucket because we have enabled acceleration. And typically it will only use it if it's enabled. If it's not, it will actually throw you an error that acceleration is not enabled. Okay, so this particular line is the key. So let's say if you are using this in your code, ensure that you set this particular property, use accelerate endpoint to true. Only if this property is set will it actually use the acceleration endpoint that we just created. Okay, the next thing that we will do is we will upload a file to S3 using a trans acceleration endpoint. So let us review through this particular function. It is pretty simple and straightforward. All that we are doing over here is we are using the put object method, as you see, and we will copy a file. I have another picture of Martha's Vineyard right here. So we will copy this file in this bucket, which is our bucket. And I have basically for this particular demo kind of hard coded the location of the picture. And this is the key. And this is the key that we will see in our bucket. So everything that is present in an S3 bucket has a key associated to it. So this particular file will be uploaded through to our S3 bucket with this particular key. The key is going to be Martha. So after we have uploaded a file, we will then go ahead and download a file from our S3 bucket. Okay, and let us review the source code to download it. So it's right there. And as you see, we will download the Toronto JPEG that we just saw some time back. So we are creating a response object and we are calling S3 get object right here, providing the bucket name, and then downloading toronto.jpg. And once we have got the file, we will basically use the write response stream to file basically, and then uh, create a file called as download.jpg. So it is going to be created at the same location where we have our upload file. We should see another file called as download.jpg. And finally, we are just going to wait for a response. So that pretty much ends the download section. And once we have downloaded the files, we will suspend acceleration for our S3 bucket. So if you scroll further down, you will see there is a method over here called as suspend acceleration. And if you look into it for the details, you will see that again we are creating an S3 client right here, which is just a regular client. Now this, if you note over here, is not a transfer acceleration client, okay? This is just a regular client and hence we are resetting this variable right here. So if I scroll back up, we had actually created an S3 client using the transfer acceleration endpoint on the top right here, as you see. But the client that we are creating here, this is the regular S3 client. It is not using any transfer accelerate or anything of that sort. And then finally, we are creating a put request to basically disable or suspend bucket acceleration. Okay, and finally, we will have this acceleration, suspend acceleration request put through. Okay, so this was a source code to suspend acceleration on our bucket. So let us go ahead and execute these methods. Okay, so I'm going to hit F5, and I have a couple of debug points. So what we will do is we will basically step through the entire process. So hit F5, and as you see, my application has come up. It's waiting for me to provide some inputs. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And now the control has moved back to our IDE. And the first thing that we will do is to upload a file to our S3 bucket. So we basically created this client, as you see, using our S3 acceleration endpoint. And using this particular client that we have created, we will go ahead and upload a file. So I'm going to step through this, guys. So as you see, we are now create using the client and putting an object basically in our S3 bucket, which is nothing else but this pretty picture marthavineyard.jpg. Okay, and this particular file is present on my disk. So there is this file. This is the location, and this is the picture. This is the picture that we will upload to our S3 bucket. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to step through this. So hit F11. So as you see, it did not throw any error, and now it is waiting for us to give it some response. So go ahead and hit F11, and you will see that a file was uploaded successfully. So let us go ahead and check this from our S3 console. So I'm going to close this and go to my S3 console again. It's right here. This is our bucket. And as you see, our file with the key Martha has been uploaded. Okay, so let's go back to our source code and move further ahead. Okay, so we have successfully uploaded a file through to our S3 bucket. Now go ahead and just waiting for input. So the next thing that we will do is we will download a file, which is the Torrento JPEG that we saw earlier. And right here, we are stepping through this. So I've provided the key. The key is torrento.jpg, as you see, is right here. And we will go ahead and download this particular file. And once it's downloaded, it will be created with the name called as download.jpg. So let us step through this. So it's going to go ahead and get the object. And now we are going to use the response stream to write a file on our disk. And a file was written successfully. So let us go ahead and check that. So there it is. This is download.jpg, and our Torrento file was downloaded successfully and saved as download.jpg. And finally, just to step through, and it is going to say write the response key right here for us. Okay, so if you go back, you will see that the response key is written here. Okay, the next thing that we will do is we will go ahead and suspend acceleration on our bucket. So let us step through that. So we are in the suspend acceleration source code, that piece. And if we step through, we are creating the regular S3 client as we discussed earlier. Now we are creating a request to basically suspend the bucket transfer acceleration. So I'm going to step through this, and now we are going to go ahead and send that request and step through that as well, and finally come out of this. So our suspend acceleration request has been sent successfully. So let us go ahead and check if it was truly suspended or not. So if we click on properties and again scroll down, probably need to refresh this. Okay, it is still enabled. So it's going to take it's generally quick, but today is taking a little time. So just going to refresh it a couple of times to see if it was disabled. Okay, so hopefully it was not my source code. It looks like it is still enabled. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh this a couple of times. So probably coming back again. Let's try this. Properties, and hopefully it is still enabled. Wow, it's taking a whole lot of time. So that was one of the key reasons I did not want to enable it also from the source code, guys, because from the source code, it generally takes a while to kind of enable or disable it. Okay, so hopefully I'm going to go ahead and step through the code and end this right here. Okay, so let us see if our transfer acceleration. Okay, finally it is now suspended. There it is. Okay, so as you see, our transfer acceleration has been suspended successfully. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. Okay, and so one of the other things that was asked to me sometime back when I was, demoing this to somebody else is that how do we know it is truly using the accelerate endpoint, because we did not mention the endpoint anywhere. Okay, so if you want to know if it's truly using the endpoint or not, so we have disabled our acceleration, right? And we are creating the client over here. As you see, we have mentioned it to use accelerate endpoint. Okay, so now let us go ahead and basically execute this piece of code again. As you see, the disable again is the enable acceleration is disabled over here. So I'm going to put a breakpoint right here, and now go ahead and execute this. Our acceleration has been suspended, and we are telling it to use accelerate endpoint. Okay, so let us see what happens. And if I step through this, so as you see, we have told it to use accelerate endpoint, and now we are trying to upload a file. So if it's truly using the accelerate endpoint, there is no endpoint. So if we step through this, and now it is going to try and put an object. And if I go ahead and step through this further ahead, so it's waiting, guys, right now. Sometimes it takes a little time for it to come back, but I'm waiting for the error to show up. Okay, so that's the error. And if you click on view detail, it will tell you that S3 transfer acceleration is disabled on this bucket. So it was truly, or it does truly use that S3 transfer acceleration endpoint. Only if the transfer acceleration endpoint is enabled, and you have also mentioned or requested it to use the transfer acceleration endpoint, it will ensure that it is going to use that acceleration endpoint. Okay, so it's not that it is using the direct endpoint or anything. It is using the transfer acceleration endpoint behind the scenes, and if it's disabled, it will throw an error. As you see, it is giving you error right now. Okay, guys, so that is it from me for today. I will have this source code uploaded on GitHub, and also have the URL posted in the description of this video. Um, do provide your feedback. If you want me to create videos on any specific topic, then do let me know, and I can certainly have them created as well. So thank you very much, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.